don't have that information here in front of me, but that's also possible. Yes.
Sheriff, do you have a name because you released a picture, or are you withholding the name, and why is that?
We are withholding the name at this time, and as I stated earlier, it is a priority to apprehend this person. And we have a lot of resources throughout this entire region, and we believe if we're putting his name out, that will inhibit our ability to potentially arrest the suspect if he's out there, or maybe flee. So please be patient with us. You've been patient thus far, and this is why we're going to keep our word that we're going to continuously update you, because the community, I understand, they're thirsty for information. And yes, we did put his picture out, and that's because from a public safety perspective, we want people to see who this is and then give us any information that they may have about his whereabouts so that we can safely take him into custody.
But do we know if this individual was working by himself and the motive of the situation?
No, we don't. And we have to keep all those options open. Was he by himself? Were there other suspects? Our detectives are looking at every angle. And that's the important thing that good investigators do, right? To keep every option on the table until we know for sure what the motive was, who else was involved, and other than getting this suspect into custody and providing the best case to either the district attorney or the U.S. Attorney's Office, our job is to collect every shred of this awful puzzle that has been laid out by this suspect. So, work in progress.
It's one of those options.
Do you believe that this is a domestic violence situation, and that's what
We've been asked that, and we're looking at every angle. Whether it's domestic violence, the question was asked earlier about a hate crime. You have to leave the door open for any possibility until we understand who this suspect is, what his motives are, where he came from, what his intention was. At the end of the day, as a Sheriff's Department investigative unit, we are responsible for providing all the facts and evidence to our partners in the prosecutor's office so we can prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law.
Is the car in Torrance registered to the individual whose name you have?
I don't have that information right now in front of me. We should be able to follow up with you on that as this incident goes on.
Sheriff, would you be able to confirm at this point that the suspect with the second location was in fact the same one who perpetrated this mass shooting here in Monterey Park?
We believe it is. I'm not confirming it 100% because, again, we still have to put this whole thing together. But the picture or the image that we're showing you is from the second location, and we believe that they are both connected. But again, we leave every option on the table. We have to leave it open because we don't want to focus on one area while someone else is getting away. So got to be open to all of it.
How he was apprehended, I mean, for a while by the patrons at Lili Dance Hall. What kind of weapon was recovered from him? How did he get away?
Earlier today, in regards to the weapon, I could tell you that it's not a high-powered assault rifle, but I don't want to get into the specifics on the weapon. In time, we will. Everyone will get exactly what that is, but I don't want to say anything that will impact or create more challenges for us in trying to apprehend this person. I think.
Two more questions.
But do you think only one weapon was involved in the deadly incident?
We don't know that yet. And for us, just like I'm saying that there may be one suspect, we think there's one, there may be more. We also have to assume there may be more than one weapon, right? We may have recovered one. When we find him, that doesn't mean he's not armed and dangerous.
Sheriff, finally, can you explain to us then, since the last briefing, what is new other than the photo?
Well,
I mean, the update, you got everyone here. I'm just trying to ascertain if there's anything new other than the photo.
we have the photo that's new. There's the incident that's occurring in Torrance where obviously there's a lot of questions and concerns about that. That's the update that we have.
There's nothing from that. You're not able to tell us anything from that. So I'm just asking if there's anything definitive that you can tell us.
I'm giving you definitive information now, and I'm giving you the information that we have. And I had a choice to sit back and not come out here and be available, or come out here like we talked about earlier, and every time we get even a shred of an update to give you what we have, because there's significant public interest in this, as there should be. So if we call you out here in 2 hours, I'm hoping there's more information to provide, because I want this solved as much as anybody out there does. We want to, this has been painful. Let me go over here.
Can you confirm the name of the 2 locations where the shootings took place?
I don't have that information in front of me. Yeah, typically I don't put out the specific locations just out of respect for the business. I'm sure as the day goes on, we'll be putting down those specific names of the businesses, because as you can imagine, if you're the business owner there and you had this horrible incident, they're traumatized as well. So
One more question.
let me go over here.
What hospitals were the victims taken to?
You know, it is normal that when we have victims of violent crime, we don't talk about specific hospitals. And I'm going to share just a quick story as to why we don't. Earlier, it may have been mentioned that they were at a specific hospital, and somebody called one of those hospitals to say something along the lines that they want to go and finish the job. That is absolutely horrible. So again, I don't believe that's the information. Please, these victims and survivors are dealing with so much. Let's not traumatize them more. So yeah, and be patient with us, and our Sheriff's Information Bureau will put out another time where we're coming out, and I hope to have even better information. But as of right now, that's what we have. And again, thoughts and prayers to all the families involved in this. It's a horrible incident for our county. So thank you very much.
En español o no? Yes, over there. In Spanish.
All right, you were listening live there. That was the latest news conference from Monterey Park with Sheriff Robert Luna, other speakers including LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis and LA County District Attorney George Gascon, all speaking at the mic as we are gathering the very latest information on this deadly mass shooting that occurred late last night in the city of Monterey Park. Still, those numbers remain the same. You see on your screen, 10 killed and 10 injured in the mass shooting. And while that news conference was ongoing, on the right side of your screen, you still see it there, and now we have a ground image on the left side of the screen. Those images are both from the city of Torrance. So there's a lot at play here. What's happening at this location, as you see the ground shot and the aerial shot, is a vehicle that they believe could be the suspect from this mass shooting. Sheriff Luna, using very delicate wording, could be the suspect. They believe it's possible that it's him. So there's a lot at play to confirm that, but certainly they are taking it seriously that this vehicle matches the description. They have released the image of the suspect. They have not released his name. The sheriff did confirm that they have a name, but they did not want to put it out right now. We, of course, have the crew on the scene. That includes reporter Sophie Flay. Sophie has confirmed that we have the LA County Bomb Squad and Hazmat on scene as well as they investigate this vehicle before they move in any closer. And while that news conference was going on, we saw the LA County Sheriff Bearcat, that SWAT vehicle right there to the right of your screen on the bottom right, move alongside that white van to get a closer look. It was right against the vehicle.
Yeah, we were watching that as that press conference was going on. We also want to go back out to our ground reporter, eyewitness news reporter Sophie Flay with the latest. We just heard that press conference. And Sophie, what are you seeing out there from your vantage point this morning?
Okay, we'll put Sophie on standby. We're not hearing Sophie's mic.
Oh, there
okay,
it is.
Sophie, go ahead. We hear you now. You're good now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Mark, Irene, we are here in Torrance on Sepulveda Boulevard and Hawthorne Boulevard. Right behind me, as you can see, we can zoom in here, you can see that white cargo van sandwiched between two Bearcats and like you said, another one kind of just moved in there. And we have just confirmed now that the bomb squad and hazmat team have moved in. And in that press conference, we learned that they're not sure if there are hazardous materials inside that cargo van, so they are taking all precautions. And everyone's here. I mean, Torrance Police, the SWAT team, LA County Sheriff, everyone coming together to handle the situation carefully and diligently, like they've mentioned. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna released photos, like you said, of the suspect not that long ago, and they are now just waiting here. As we mentioned before, it was impossible to get over here. So many streets blocked off, and so many community members have come out to kind of watch this scene unfold.
That Bearcat move through the area, it's on the move once again, and it has just been trying to survey that van. As you mentioned, we also saw the drone that was taking a look inside the windshield and around the vehicle. As you mentioned, Sophie, that they're erring on the side of caution because we don't know if there are any explosives inside or around that vehicle. So, Sophie, we appreciate your report this morning and giving us a good perspective of things on the ground there. And we do see this Bearcat being very active, getting very close to the driver's side of the van. We saw earlier that the window there was smashed, so it might have given them a clearer view of what's in the back of that van.
Yeah, that's a very interesting position that it's taken. In the moments prior to this, it was moving alongside of that van, but now kind of pointed right towards it. We have a reporter in Monterey Park, Leticia Juarez, on standby, but if we can hold, I think this image is worth staying on. Let's see, do we still have former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonald? Is he still with us? He is the director of USC Safe Communities Institute. He's been providing really important insight and perspective as to what we're seeing on the ground this morning here in Torrance for this part of the investigation. Jim, are you there?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. Oh, are we here?
Yep. Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay, now this image that we're seeing, this Bearcat with the LA County Sheriff's Department, it's taken a different position, kind of pointing directly towards the driver's side window of that white van. You know how this process works. Tell us about what we're seeing, what could happen next. What does this all mean?
Yeah, they're using the Bearcat because they're in a position of advantage structurally that is as strong a foundation as they could put themselves in a safe position that should something happen, should somebody open fire on the vehicle, they're relatively safe in that position. So as they move forward now, they're looking to see everything they can see. It's a panel van, so you don't have the ability to look in the rear windows or any side windows. So they're trying to get as much information as they can by basically hitting this thing from every angle they can, to include the drones. And so as they go forward, if they can, they'll also be in a position with hazmat and the bomb squad out there to be able to try and obtain readings should there be any hazardous materials there, to be able to, in the parts per million, figure out, do we have an elevated level of any substance? And that's very helpful then in deciding next steps. So there's a lot of science goes on now that a few years ago was not possible, but they have all of that, at their disposal. So our hopes is that this is a safe position for them to be in, and that they can, as quickly as appropriate, be able to bring some resolution to this and some closure to the people who are at this particular scene, at least.
And we'll stop you right there. You may be on a slight delay. SWAT officers have moved in to the vehicle. They are at the door preparing to make entry. They have broken the passenger side window. That window is now open. They are potentially opening the door. There's about more than a half dozen armed officers right at the door. Perhaps the side door will be the next to open. We now have the passenger side door open. Guns are drawn as they are moving in on this vehicle. You got to assume they believe this individual is incapacitated. The fact that they are going inside first. He's reaching over, the lead officer, to the driver's side. He has moved the seat, and potentially this sliding door here on the side is going to open next.
Yes, they have their guns drawn. As you mentioned, the Bearcat on the other side of the vehicle, making sure that they are safe from that angle as well. But we're waiting to see what the officers will do next. They've just broken the passenger window, opened that side of the van, about to open the side door. They are all in position. One officer has just gotten into the passenger seat and taking a look back there. It doesn't seem like they are on high alert.
I mean, the fact that he just went all the way inside the vehicle.
The body posture there, it seems like they are not seeing too much of a threat at this point in time, but they are, of course, still on guard. One of the officers still peering back there.
It's not a sliding door. The doors are opening.
Taking a look inside. And it's kind of hard to see from our view.
It looks like they're still looking even further back behind that door opening.
They're pulling something out, looks like a blanket of some sort.
And former Sheriff Jim McDonald still on the phone with us. We thank you for sticking with us here. I mean, we're watching, as everyone is, at these images. This was a barricade situation for well over 2 hours here in Torrance, the intersection of Hawthorne and Sepulveda, near the Del Amo Fashion Center, now playing out live here on ABC 7 Eyewitness News, on air and online, abc7.com.
And the situation has been unfolding here in Torrance since roughly a little past 11 o'clock. So it's been almost a couple hours since we first saw this van swarmed by Bearcats and officers moving in. So they have been monitoring for the past couple hours to make sure that there were no threats to any officers. They had a drone circling this van for a while, checking for explosives possibly in and around the vehicle, for any movement inside the vehicle. We are still waiting to see and hear what is inside, if it was the suspect they have been looking for, if it is that suspect with another person possibly. We don't know at this point in time, but it looks like that Bearcat is moving away from the vehicle on the driver's side of the van.
Gosh, even with the posture, which was somewhat calm given all the circumstances, it was really tense to watch that, not knowing what these SWAT individuals would find upon opening the vehicle. You even have one gentleman walking away there. So we don't have the best vantage point to see all the way inside, including all the way in the back portion of that van, but it's still unclear if an individual was in fact located in that vehicle. They are continuing to comb through that vehicle. I was just so impressed by that initial SWAT officer who walked in through the front passenger side to get that door open. Clearly, they had some good information from the SWAT Bearcats that were there, had it pinned, and then from the drone that was looking in through the front dash. But still, it's a tense moment nonetheless. You just never know.
Yeah, you can never fully assume that that vehicle is completely safe. But we did watch that officer break the front window, the passenger front window, and reach in, unlock the vehicle. It's very difficult to see from our vantage point what's inside the van, and we may not know for a bit of time what exactly they find, because they do control, law enforcement does control the information that is released to the public as they continue their investigation. So we are just watching all of this unfold live. Many people still reeling and outraged and emotional over the shooting that happened last night.
Absolutely. Jim McDonnell joining us again. Again, he's been on the phone with us, director of USC Safe Communities Institute. You've seen the images now. I believe you were on a delay, but I'm sure you've seen the images now from Air 7 of those SWAT members going in. What do you make of what you saw?
Yeah, it appears from what we know that they made sure that, that what they had initially thought was confirmed. One of the operators then, as you mentioned, took the initiative to go in and be able to open the rear panel doors so that others could go in. There was one of the operators there with a backpack indicating that he was likely the tactical paramedic on scene. And so if there was a need to render aid, medical aid, there was an ability to do that immediately. That does not appear to have been the case, and that person also has the ability to be able to make a pronouncement as to whether that individual, if there is one in there, we don't know anything for sure at this point, but to pronounce somebody deceased as well, if that was what the circumstances dictated.
Sure. I got to assume, jump into conclusions from what we've seen here, that there are two options. Either the van's empty, or if there was or is an individual in there, that person is deceased. We can't see a person deceased from our vantage point. There's a portion of the van with no windows inside the doors to the left that they were searching. It's unclear if there is a possible person suspect in that portion of the van. But the law enforcement officers, those SWAT members, they have, in most part, stepped away. There still are some to the driver's side door side, but those team members have stepped back from the van. They've gone through the initial search of the vehicle. So there certainly was not a live suspect in the vehicle. If there was someone in that vehicle, that suspect is passed away. The other option is that they did not find anyone. That would be a major concern.
And again, we are still waiting to hear from law enforcement on an update on this. We in our last press conference that we heard from them roughly about 45 minutes ago, we didn't have many updates on this situation. But they did say that the suspect that they had been looking for was possibly in this white cargo van because it matched the description of what they had been looking for throughout the entire morning.
Run this scenario by the possibility that the suspect was following the news updates and the alerts that law enforcement had put out that they were looking for a white cargo van, and it was ditched here. That certainly is a possibility, and that this is where the vehicle was found. That it matched the description, the possibility that they had the license plate and connect the dots on that. But after 2+ hours, maybe 3 hours here on scene at this location, they maybe have not found anything inside in terms of a suspect. Jim McDonnell, that obviously is speculation, but everything has to be on the table. Sure. We can only see what we see.
And Jim, is that possibly why they are withholding some information?
Okay, new information. Hold on, Jim. There actually is a body. There is a body in the driver's seat of the van. We did not have a good we did not have good perspective on that earlier, and now we can see it. Of course, we're not going to zoom in, but I had eyes on it a moment ago, and there is a man who was in the driver's side, slumped over of this van. Wow, what a development. Okay, speak to that.
Yeah, that makes sense, because if this was an abandoned van, they would have cleared it earlier, taken every precaution. But if there was no one in there, then the posture would have been different, and they would have continued doing the normal procedure for the investigation, the impound, and so forth. That didn't happen, and the reason for the delay was, as you now know, a suspect in the van and apparently deceased at the scene. And so when the press conference was held and Sheriff Luna mentioned that we don't want to jump to any conclusions, you have the van. It could be the right van and not the right suspect at the time. So there's a number of different options that you can't press a redo button if you don't get it right. So they want to slow things down. They want to take every precaution. But they also realize that when they have, in this case, the scene here again in Torrance, as well as Monterey Park and Alhambra, they have to exhaust all investigative methods to be able to capture what they can, because once you open it up, you no longer have the ability to go back and to be able to then complete the investigation. The scene has been compromised. And so they will take their time in moving through this investigation and follow-up. And again, as we saw here with this white van, it was fairly clear, although you can't say that, it is speculation prior to now, that there was an individual in the van and that they were incapacitated. And that really dictated then what we were seeing on the scene, that you had, the SWAT officers there, but not in a high state of readiness. It was very clear to them, probably from the beginning, that this individual had passed and was no longer a threat, and that dictated the test that we saw here on the live.
Yeah, they probably spotted him ahead of time and were taking their time to assess if there were any other threats possibly with this vehicle, maybe bomb explosives or anyone else inside the vehicle. That's why they were out there since about 11 o'clock this morning. But wow, what a development in this investigation. Not even a day after that crime happened overnight in Monterey Park.
Yeah, just 12 hours after the shooting that occurred at 10:20 last night, in which 10 individuals were killed, another 10 more that were wounded. And Jim McDonnell, when you have a situation like this, you lose the investigative possibility to try this individual, to gather more from them, to interview them. There are so many questions. It appears that in most situations, you'd want to keep that suspect alive to figure out what were they thinking, what was the motive, why, and was there anybody else involved?
No, absolutely. I mean, the sanctity of life drives what we do, and certainly if there was any indication that this individual was alive from the beginning, that they would have taken more urgent, assertive steps to be able to get them medical aid. It was obviously from their behavior clear that wasn't the case. But again, as going back to the press conference with Sheriff Luna, the number of moving parts in something like this, and he referred to the human side, the number of victims, all of the impact on all of their families, the number of people injured and scarred maybe for the rest of their life. Their life has been changed, as well as all of their families. And then the community, the perception of safety in their small community for something like this to happen. And now become a focal point for the world media. Again, very sad, very tragic for everybody involved, but certainly the people many people will live with a lot of pain for the rest of their life as a result of this incident last night.
Yeah, absolutely, very heartbreaking. This is a traumatic situation for so many communities here. We do want to go out to our Eyewitness News reporter, Leticia Juarez, in Monterey Park at the Reunification Center, where families and friends of the victims there can get answers and ask questions to law enforcement. So, Letty, what can you tell us?
Well, for anyone that's been impacted, whether it be a family member or a victim or a witness who saw what occurred, they can come down here to the Langley Senior Center, which is located on the 400 block of West Emerson. We haven't seen too many people going in, just a couple people trickling in. Like right now, we do see some folks going in. They've been in probably about 3 others before them. Now we're seeing a couple more folks. They're just allowing them to come in here and seek help, whether it be for a mental health crisis, because obviously if they were a part of this or they had a family member that was injured, or maybe they don't know where that family member is, this is where they can come to get information. Now, this crisis center was set up by the mayor of Los Angeles office, Mayor Karen Bass, helping out the mayor here of Monterey Park by establishing this center here, the Department of Mental Health on scene with their advocates, and also with just people in the law enforcement community to help out. Again, we've been seeing a lot of food coming in as people from the community have been bringing them items. The Red Cross is also on scene to help with anything that might be needed by the victims. But again, anyone that may have been involved in this mass shooting, who maybe has a loved one that they cannot find or locate, maybe they're at a hospital, they might be one of the victims, the deceased victims, they can come to this center and try to find some answers. This center will be here throughout the duration. Right now, the mayor of Los Angeles helping out the mayor of Monterey Park as they conduct this mass shooting investigation. They're trying to just gather as much of the witnesses or the family members or the victims that they can to try and see what they can do to help them out right now. Because you can imagine this is just a really heartbreaking event happening to this community here in Monterey Park. I'm going to throw it back to you guys in studio.
Absolutely. Leticia Juarez, we thank you for that update. We are now into our 1 p.m. hour here on Eyewitness News, both on air and online, streaming on our free ABC 7 Los Angeles app. I'm joined now by Eyewitness News anchor Michelle Fisher, joining us here on the desk. She was here last night when all of this was beginning to unfold, so much unclarity on what exactly was happening, and now kind of full circle with learning so much about the victims and now the apparent suspect in this white van. Michelle, just heartbreaking to see the impact, the broad impact of this event.
Yes, last night as all of this information was coming into us, something sometimes I don't know that everyone understands immediately, especially the viewers. They want answers and they're wondering,